In the modern world, there is one nightmare the United States hoped would never become reality: a nuclear detonation on American soil. But tonight, it happens. A single flash. A city erased. Communications collapse. Millions thrown into darkness. Sirens wailing across the nation. And now the question becomes, how does the United States respond? What unfolds in the first 6 hours after the unthinkable becomes real? This is the moment history splits in two. This is WW3. The U.S. responds, the first 6 hours after a nuclear attack. The first second after impact is not seen by most Americans. It begins in an instant, a blinding sphere of light expanding with impossible speed. Tens of thousands perish instantly. Hundreds of thousands more suffer burns, shock waves, or the collapse of buildings. But while destruction unfolds locally, the countrywide response ignites within seconds. U.S. Missile Warning Center detect the launch. Even before the detonation, satellites caught the infrared plume of a missile rising over the horizon. In Colorado, inside Cheyenne Mountain, the Missile Warning Center flashes a series of warnings. Launch detected. Trajectory confirmed. Impact on U.S. Territory imminent. Operators have only minutes. They verify, re-verify. And then, the one message no one ever wants to send: nuclear detonation, U.S. city confirmed. National Command Authority alerted simultaneously. Secure phones ring in. The White House, Pentagon, STRATCOM headquarters in Nebraska, Air Force Global Strike Command, NORAD, and aboard the nuclear command aircraft, Night Watch. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Secretary of Defense, and the President are pulled into an emergency link. The President is evacuated. The Secret Service executes protocol PHEONIX. Within seconds, the President is moved underground or to awaiting Air Force One, depending on where they are at the moment. Agents repeat one phrase constantly. This is not a drill. DEFCON, one recommended. For the first time in modern history, the Joint Chiefs recommend DEFCON 1, maximum readiness. It does not mean immediate retaliation, but it means the U.S. military shifts into full wartime posture. Missile crews in underground silos stand by. Submarine commanders await launch codes. Air Force bombers scramble to the skies. The public realizes something is wrong. Far from the blast zone, Americans begin to feel the shock. Phones buzz with emergency alerts. News stations interrupt broadcasts. Social media erupts with confusion. Videos of a rising cloud and frantic messages. The first reports are scattered. Something hit the city. There was an explosion. It looks nuclear. The government says shelter. No one knows what comes next. FAA grounds all aircraft. The U.S. closes its airspace instantly. All commercial planes receive the order. Land immediately at nearest airport. Military jets take over the skies. The world watches in disbelief. Within 6 minutes, every major world government knows the United States has been struck. Allies activate emergency councils. Rivals place their forces on alert. Markets freeze. Oil prices spike. The world enters the most dangerous moment since the Cuban Missile Crisis. The President speaks to top commanders. Inside the airborne command post, the President demands answers. Where did the missile come from? Is a second wave coming? Who is responsible? But intelligence is still fragmented. The only certainty is this: the U.S. has suffered a nuclear strike. The blast zone burns, firestorms rage uncontrollably. Radiation spreads. Local governments are immobilized. And across America, tens of millions watch the mushroom cloud unfold on live television. Federal government goes fully into co-op mode. Continuity of government plans activate automatically. Underground sites open. Backup leadership briefed. Command aircraft in the air. FEMA deploys. Nuclear labs prepare response teams. This is not a drill. It is the structure designed to keep the U.S. functioning after a nuclear strike. Social media collapses into chaos. Mass panic spreads online. Was this Russia? Is China attacking? Is WW3 starting? Where are the next targets? Rumors multiply faster than facts. U.S. intelligence races to attribute the attack. The first priority is determining who launched the missile. Satellites, radar tracks, and missile signatures are analyzed frame by frame. Naval intelligence checks submarine locations. CIA taps every global asset. The president makes one order clear. We do not retaliate until we know with absolute certainty. Military bases lock down nationwide across the country. Gates close, armories open, fighter jets go airborne. Nuclear forces are dispersed. Helicopters ferry commanders. Every soldier knows what this means. The country is preparing for the possibility of further strikes. The Joint Chiefs present retaliation options. Generals outline grim choices. Immediate counterstrike launch, now based on trajectory analysis. High alert posture. Wait for confirmation while preparing massive retaliation. Decapitation. Strike target leadership command. Structures of the aggressor. Full nuclear response. Doomsday-level retaliation. Only if the U.S. itself faces annihilation. The president refuses to strike blindly. The stakes are too high. Intelligence breakthrough. Analysts combine missile signature data with infrared launch tracking. A single fact emerges. The missile was not launched from land. It came from the ocean, a submarine. This changes everything. Search for the submarine begins U.S. attack. Submarines spread across the Pacific and Atlantic. P-8. Poseidon aircraft flood the skies. Sonar nets activate. The order is crystal clear. Find that submarine. U.S. allies activate their militaries. NATO enters an emergency session. European nations go to high alert. Japan raises missile defense shields. South Korea opens underground command sites. The shockwave is global. Markets crash. Stock futures hit limit down. Banks freeze transfers. Cyber attacks increase globally. Uncertainty becomes the world's new currency. Second detonation feared missile warning. Satellites detect heat signatures that could indicate new launches. Alerts flood every command center. Air crews brace. Missile officers wait for the impossible command. But the signatures disappear. False alarm. But the fear remains. First casualty estimates delivered. FMA provides the president with the projection. Hundreds of thousands dead. Millions exposed to radiation. Critical infrastructure erased. No functional emergency services in the blast zone. The president falls silent. There is no way to absorb this. The submarine is triangulated. After 2 hours of analysis, 3 independent sonar nets converge on a region. A hostile submarine is moving quickly, attempting to disappear into deep waters. U.S. attack submarines close in. 2 American submarines receive the coordinates. The order is short: terminate. World leaders plead for restraint. Calls pour into the White House. UK Prime Minister, French President, German Chancellor, Japanese PM, NATO, Secretary General. Each says the same thing: confirm the attacker before escalating. The president agrees, but time is running out. National Guard deployed in over 20 states, with panic spreading, looting rising, and highways jammed with people fleeing imaginary threats. Governors request emergency support. Troops activate to maintain order. Another breakthrough: signals intelligence intercepts encrypted naval transmissions. The source is identified. The submarine's origin is confirmed. The attacker is known. The evidence is overwhelming. The United States now must decide how to respond. Retaliation plans finalized. Military advisors outline the proportional response spectrum. Target the submarine, only strike military bases of the attacker, destroy their nuclear assets. Massive retaliation. The president asks, which option prevents another strike? Which option prevents WW3? No one has an answer. U.S. submarine moves into firing position, tubes flood, missiles arm, awaiting the presidential command. The president addresses the nation. For the first time since the attack, the president appears on a secure emergency broadcast. My fellow Americans, a nuclear weapon has been used against our country. We are responding with every measure necessary to protect our nation. The public braces for what comes next. Allies pledge mutual support. NATO declares the attack on the U.S. as an attack on the alliance. For the first time in its history, Article 5 discussions begin under nuclear conditions. The order is given. Inside the command aircraft, the president signs the directive. A short phrase echoes through every nuclear command channel. Execute. American missiles launch. From thousands of miles away, a U.S. submarine opens its tubes. Missiles burst through the water, rising toward the sky. The retaliation has begun. The attacking submarine is destroyed. Whether through a torpedo from a U.S. sub or the blast of a nearby explosion, the hostile boat disappears from sonar screens. The world holds its breath. Every nation knows what this means. A nuclear attack on the U.S., a confirmed enemy, a U.S. nuclear response underway. World War III may have already started. Global panic. People flee major cities worldwide. Governments activate bunkers. Borders close. Civil defense sirens test in dozens of countries. 6 hours ago, the world was at peace. 6 hours ago, millions lived normal lives. 6 hours ago, the global order still existed. Now, after one nuclear strike, everything has changed. The United States has responded. The enemy has been identified. Retaliation is underway. And the world stands on the edge of the darkest chapter in human history. This is only the beginning.